morning, and welcome to the Power in the Word broadcast of the Pilgrim Progress Missionary Baptist Church, where Reverend Gerald Parker Sr. is our wonderful pastor. Our church motto is Let's Do It God's Way. Expect a blessing. Let's listen.
Ephesians, the 6th chapter, verse 4. And I believe with all my heart that it's going to make a great difference in all of our lives today. And it says this, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And you, fathers, and you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And just for a few minutes, what every father ought to do. Whether you are in the house or out of the house, there are some responsibilities that God requires of every father. And it says here, and ye fathers. Everybody say fathers. Yeah. Not parents, although parents are necessary, but it says father because the father is the head of the house. Now, I need to say something. This blew me away. God already had commissioned the husband to love the wife, and now God spent 3 verses on the wife and 9 verses on the husband, and now all of a sudden he's doubling back and putting a double duty on the man. Is that fair? 3 verses just for the wife, and then 9 verses for the husband, and then God doubles back and jumps on the man again and says, now, and ye fathers. Guess what? We as men carry a double duty when it comes to the family. There's a lot on our shoulders, and God requires a lot from the fathers in the house. And it says, and ye fathers. What about the fathers? God is saying, since I instituted the family, and since I instituted fathers and mothers and children, there's a job, fathers, that I expect you to do. And now notice now, there are 2 commands in this verse. One command is a negative command, and the other command is a positive command. Now, guess what? And so what God does here in Ephesians 6 and 4, he gives us fathers, first of all, the negative command, and he's saying in so many words, you need to stop doing something or don't do this as relates to our children. And it says here, listen, it says this. It says this. And fathers, and ye fathers, look what it says. It says here, and provoke not your children to wrath. That's what it says. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. What does that word provoke mean? That word provoke, the Greek word is paraorgizo. I just want to get a little technical here for those of you who are spiritual giraffes, although God called me to preach to lambs, but there are some of y'all who got pretty high up there. The Greek word for provoke is paraorgizo. It means to walk alongside and cause someone to be mad. Paraorgizo simply means to walk alongside someone, and by you walking alongside them, they become agitated, mad, incensed, and resentful. And God is saying to the Father, as relates to our children, we are not to walk alongside of them and cause them to be upset, mad, or resentful. But I need to explain something now. I need to explain this real quick. Because when you try to tell a child what's right and they don't want to do what's right, they will get upset. And that's the flesh. The flesh says, I want to do what I want to do. So when the father or the parents tell a child, this is the way that you ought to go, and they don't want to go that way, normally they rebel or they get upset, but that's not what God is telling. He's telling the fathers, as you deal with your children, there's a certain way that you ought to act. There's a certain way that you ought to be around them so that they won't become resentful. Now, I need to let you know here, this word provoke, is a present imperative. Everybody say present imperative. Present tense means this is something that the fathers ought to do continuously. It's an imperative, which means this is a command. It's in the active voice, which means this is something you're supposed to do. And since this is a present tense, it means make this your lifestyle, to continually do this every day, every second, every hour. And God is saying, fathers, do not continually be with your children and cause them to be resentful. And I want to let you know, brothers, this is a command and not a suggestion. It's a command. God is saying, don't deal with your children in such a way that you cause them to be angry or resentful or they become discouraged. And I'm going to share this here. I don't know how many of y'all are in the school system right now. How many teachers, how many people work in the school system? Raise your hand. All right. And I've talked to a lot of people. And you know what I found out? There are a lot of angry children in these schools, brethren. Angry. And my 11-year-old grandson who's growing up, and he comes by 3 or 4 times a week, and he talks to Pawpaw. And he says, Pawpaw, there's people fighting every day. And my grandson told me just the other day, he said, there's another fella, I was in gym, Pawpaw, I didn't do nothing to this boy, and he told me that he didn't like me and that he told me after school he was going to fight with me. I haven't done anything to him, and I told him, you stay away from that boy, really, because that let me know that fella is angry. And then there are a lot of kids that come to school, they'll curse you out, they'll fight, and people be wondering, what's wrong with them? If you go all the way back, if you follow them to the house, you just might meet a parent who's also angry. Or a man who's also angry. Watch this now. And anger has a way of transferring itself to someone else. And so God is telling us as men and fathers, don't treat your child in such a way that you irritate them and cause them to be angry. All right, I don't want to turn this into a psychology course, but there are ways, brethren, that we provoke our children. Here's one. Treating children like you the sergeant and they the soldiers. 2, 3, 4. I said go left, and I said go left because I said go left. That will cause anger. Here's another that causes anger. Not being there for them. You say, well, I got to work. I got to do this. I don't have time. I got to work. I've got to do this double time. I've got to provide clothes for my children. I've got to provide food for my children. I've got to provide a place for them to stay. And so I can't be there because I got to work. But I forgot to tell you, prisons provide that too. And not being there can cause a child to be upset and angry. Yes, overdue criticism. Just criticize the child, nothing good to say. You this and you that. Don't put that on. You this. Criticizing a child will cause anger. Favoritism in a home will cause anger. And I need to say this. I need to say this here. As I deal with some of these things, some of you all here are reliving some of those experiences. Favoritism. Another thing that will incense a child is when the father lives a double life. He say one thing and live another. And especially if he called himself a church man, he lives one way at the house. Yeah, he lives like a fool or a heathen at the house. But when he come to church, I love the Lord. He heard my cry. He bided every groan. Nah. That causes anger for a child. No love shown. I'm going to ask the question here. I'm going to ask this question. And I don't want to turn this into a psychology course. But how many times have you ever told your children, I love you? How much time do you spend talking to them? There was one report I just read the other day where the average amount of time that a father spends with his children is about 30 minutes a week. That's just in talking. 30 minutes, 5 minutes here, 3 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 1 minute here. A lot of times, what do you want? You want French fries or do you want curly fries? Do you want Nikes or do you want, Here's another thing that will incense a child. Not keeping your word. Here's another one. Overprotection. Now, it's okay to protect the child, but you can protect a child so much until you smother them and don't allow them to breathe. And here's overprotection, in other words. And then, in other words, stop acting like a child. And then all of a sudden, when they try to grow up, you ain't grown yet. What is a child supposed to do? You tell me I need to grow up, and when I act like I'm growing up, you tell me I'm a child. What am I supposed to do? And I'm angry. And so when I get from this house, I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm angry. Physical abuse and verbal abuse. I heard this illustration from Focus on the Family, James Dobson, quite a few years ago. And this particular prison decided for the inmates, for the men inmates, to have a to allow the male inmates to give their mothers Mother's Day cards 2 weeks before Mother's Day. And so they had this 18-wheeler truck full of Mother's Day cards, and they announced to the inmates that you can come out of your barracks to get some Mother's Day cards for your mother, and we will mail them to your mother. And it was a great success. I mean, line after line after line after line of men came, and they bought those Mother's Day cards for their mother, and the prison officials sent them off. And so the warden said, you know what, that's such a great idea. Let's do the same thing for Father. And to their surprise, there was not much response at all. For a lot of those men were still angry with their fathers. Pleasant memories when we think about mama, but not many pleasant memories when you think about father. Now that does not apply to everybody, but that applies to a lot of us here today. And God is telling us as fathers, stop provoking your children to wrath. Then it says, but this is what you do with your children. Now, this is a positive command. It says this, and this is, we close Ephesians 6:4. It says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but, watch this, bring them up. Everybody say, bring them up. That's it. Your job is to bring them up. And that term, bring them up, it means in the Message Bible says, grab their hand, and while they're maturing, help them to mature and help them grow up. It simply means grab their hand, get involved with them. It's more to a dad than just coming home and grabbing the remote and doing this. Grab their hands while they are maturing, because guess what? Although they might wear, that boy might wear a size 11 and you wear a size 11, but he's still a boy. Still growing. The young lady, she's still growing. She haven't arrived yet, and they need their father. Bring them up. They are simply little human beings that need the care of the daddy. I came across a picture the other day. A picture of me and Wanda and the 5 children. I guess that picture was about 32 years ago. All 5 children. And my youngest was 3 years old, and I saw all the 5 kids there, and there I am with my black hair, and afro, And how time flies. Take them by the hand while they are maturing and lead them to maturity. Get involved in their lives. That word, bring them up, means to educate them and to raise them, lead them out and on in their development. And I just have to say this. I'm not beating myself upside the head or anything, but I didn't do a lot of that. And one by one, I saw them grow up into adulthood. And it shocked me. They're grown. But did I really take my hand and lead them personally to maturity? Thank God for a good wife. Bring them up, brethren. And it says, this is it, in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. That word nurture, you know what that word nurture means? That word nurture, it simply means this. It simply means this. When they're wrong, it's okay to use the rod. I don't know where this time out stuff came from. Time out. Go to your room. Go to your room. TV in there, Xbox in there. There are some things that can be helped by using the rod. Now, all children don't respond to the rod, but guess what? Now stand up, Gerald. Stand up, Gerald. That's right. Go on, sit down, son. Sit down. I ain't got no comment on that. Part of the father's responsibility is to use the rod. But hold it. Now this is where you can make a mistake, fathers. I'm about to close. Using the rod while you're upset and mad. And there have been times, brethren, as men, you get upset and angry, and then you try to punish the child by corporal punishment while you're angry, and you do more bruising than you do anything else. It must be done with love, and while you are paddling them or whipping them, they need to understand why they are being whipped, and not just simply come up there and knock them upside down. No. They need to understand why. And you need to let them know this has hurt me as much as hurting you. Can I remember that story about that boy? That father said, son, this has hurt me as much as hurting you. He said, Daddy, I believe that, but I'm being hurt. I'm being hurt in another place than you being hurt. Proverbs 22:15 says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it out. Our kids can be foolish, but don't be afraid to use the rod. And then admonition simply means this. This is it. Instruct them. Warn them. Tell them the right and wrong. You know what? Can I talk to the kids just for a minute? We got a few here. Let me tell you something. Your parents have been where you're going now. And some of y'all think they don't know anything. Whatever you're doing now, they wrote the book. You'd be surprised. That's why they can look at you and tell you when you lying, what you say you're going one place and you're not really going to that place. That's why they can tell you, I don't think you need to run around with that group because that group is not good for you. Why? Because they understand there are some people you shouldn't run around with, and you need to learn to listen to your parents because they're trying to help you in your life. Admonition means to warn them and to encourage them in prayer. How many times have you, ever, Father, prayed with your children and they heard you pray for them? Bible reading. And then leading them to church. Bringing them to church. Everybody say bringing them to church. Now, my kids, I don't want to use it, they didn't have no choice. Because I was the pastor, and they had to come. And my boys played football, that little league football and baseball, and sometimes they'd play on Sunday. And as a father, I said, no. You can play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but no ball playing on somebody. Say, that's hard, Pastor, that's hard. You should let those boys go. I'm the daddy. And I had to explain to them why. You got to respect the Lord's day. There are some things that you should not be doing on Sunday. Somebody said, that's old-fashioned, that's old school. Old school, I'm going by the word of God. If you call this old school, then I'm old school. Teach them about Jesus Christ. Teach them about the cross. It says, nurture and admonish them in the Lord or of the Lord. Live the life before them. Oh, this is it. And don't be too proud, fathers, to say, I was wrong and I'm sorry. I didn't have a daddy in the house, but don't feel sorry for me. Because one Wednesday evening, in North Little Rock, Arkansas, I got a true father. Are y'all going to help me here? I didn't have an earthly father. But one Wednesday evening, I didn't find him, he found me. Yeah, Jesus came in my life, and now I can say I do have a father. I have a heavenly father, and that heavenly father, not only that, we all have a heavenly father, and that heavenly father loved us so much until God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. He gave his son who died on the cross and rose early Sunday morning. So fathers, let's be the fathers what God would have us to be today.
Thank you for viewing the Power in the Word broadcast. If you would like more information about Pilgrim Progress Baptist Church services and ministries, please visit us at or call our church office at 501-372-4429, where our efficient church secretary will be happy to assist you. Join us again on Wednesday and or Sunday mornings at 5 a.m. Be blessed.